Welcome back to the Truth Over Comfort show, and hopefully the thing today is going to be interesting. It's only going to be a short video. Everything will be in the show notes. But I was watching a Joe Rogan with Hamilton Morris, and it's the second one he did with Joe Rogan. And this guy's like a drug genius. Like he goes all around the world. He did a show, Hamilton's Pharmacopedia. I can't remember. I'll look it up in a second. And he tries all these different drugs and different cultures. He goes to the Amazon and spends a whole week, and they got this guy trying to call for this toad that has 5-MeO DMT in and stuff like that. And he knows all the molecule, the science behind it. He's a wizard on it. And he's talking about meth on the show, and then he says the United States prescribes meth, but under a different name. And I was thinking, nah, that's not a thing. And he says the name Desoxyn. So I looked this up, and it's legit. It's meth. It's just another name, just like heroin is called diomorphine when it's used in a hospital setting. And then he goes on to say it's prescribed for ADHD. That's surely not true. So this is the podcast, Hamilton Morris. This one here, the top one. And as you can see there, Desoxyn, methamphetamine hydrochloride tablets, FDA Gov. So that's the official, the FDA is the agency that authorizes stuff. They do obviously the COVID-19 vaccine. Everyone should be familiar with the FDA in America, maybe not here. But it's their authorizing board for drugs. And it's right. It's on the FDA. It's prescribed, and we'll go into it in a second, and a few more details. Obviously, it's pretty mind blowing that meth is prescribed in America. The land of the war on drugs, where the war on drugs all started. They imprison so many people, and meth is like one of the biggest ones. In the UK, and I don't know about other countries, meth isn't really a thing. Like, I don't know. I've never met anyone really who's done meth. You obviously see people do crack and heroin, but meth isn't really much of a thing in the UK. But in the US, it is like the PCP. Like, some guy smoked meth, stayed up for like 4 days, did an armed robbery, and like was found naked, doing some stupid thing. Whether that happens here and there or not, but I'm sure it's exaggerated. But it's the big one, meth. It was like crack in the 80s, and meth is the new one, because I think you can make it with stuff from the prescriptions. And you just can't imagine how America, the land of the war on drugs, still obviously doing it, prescribes meth. And do you know why? Do you know why as well? The DEA has a fact sheet about meth, and it says how it's approved as a medication as Desoxyn. And do you know what this means? This means it is Schedule 2. And let's just read why that is. Methamphetamine is a Schedule 2 stimulant under the Controlled Substance Act, which means that it's a high potential for abuse and a currently accepted medical use in FDA-approved products. So there's only one legal meth product, Desoxyn, is currently marketed in 5, 10, and 15 milligram tablets, and has limited use in the treatment of obesity and ADHD. So that's interesting. Meth is, Schedule 2 in America. So let's just read some of this FDA document. Don't worry, I'm not going to read the full 16 pages, just a few bits that are crazy. If they give this to kids who are 6 years and older, imagine going to the doctor with a 6-year-old because he's too energetic and displaying ADHD tablet. I don't care. There's a debate about ADHD. Is it real or not? I'm not sure. But a 6-year-old who that you can't be giving kids drugs. All they ever go on about is like, you smoke pot when you're 13 and your brain's fried forever. Like you're done. You can't smoke weed when you're 13 because you're developing, your brain's developing, all your hormones. But don't worry, we're gonna give your kids some prescribed stuff, because that, neurology understands it's been prescribed and it's come from a nice white coat from a doctor. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. I don't care if your kid's like energetic or distracted. He's 6 years old, mate. And you think I'm making it up? Let's just get to it. So Desoxyn, methamphetamine, hydrochloride tablets. Methamphetamine has a high potential for abuse. It should thus be tried only in weight reduction programs for patients in whom alternative therapy has been ineffective. Administration of meth, I'm just going to call it meth, for prolonged periods of time in obesity may lead to drug dependence and must be avoided. Interesting. So there you go. Have a bit more there. And Desoxyn tablets contain 5 milligrams of methamphetamine hydrochloride for oral administration. So it's part of a class of drugs that they call like anorectics and anorexigenics. I just feel like I'm guessing for like anorexic people, or I don't know. Actually, no, it's for obese people. Sorry, but it's here, and they're saying about how the drugs haven't really been proven to be completely valid because it could be other factors. So here it talks a bit about the obesity section, but I want to get to this bit. Indications and usage. ADHD, attention deficit disorder with hyperactivity. Desoxyn tablets are indicated as an integral part of a total treatment program, which typically includes other remedial measures, psychological, educational, and social, for stabilizing effect in children over 6 years of age. Let me repeat that: over 6 years of age, right here, with a behavioral syndrome characterized by the following group of developmentally inappropriate symptoms: moderate to severe distractibility, short attention span, hyperactivity, emotional liability, and impulsivity. So this is why like people just don't think ADHD is real. You look it up, you look at the symptoms, it's like everything. You're like ill and you look it up, you're like, I could be that. ADHD is like, one, you're 6 years old, short attention span, like your brain's tiny. Like, what are you, how would you not? Hyperactivity. Yeah, I've never met any kids who are too energetic. Emotional liability and impulsivity. You're not developed enough to make decisions not to be impulsive, really, are you? I'm sure in some forms ADHD real, but 6 years old, mate. You can't be given. Imagine you pull some parents into the doctors, and he's like 6, or say even 12, 13. Yeah, your kid's energetic. No, he's easily distracted. Doesn't have much of an attention span, and he's a bit impulsive. He doesn't really think about the long game, does he? Don't worry, we got something for him. Don't worry about trying to parent him, or maybe like embracing the fact he hasn't. That's his personality, which it could be. How he's not been on this earth long enough to make up. He's just always been like that. I'm sure kids back in the day, like he's 50 and he's still energetic because that's just how he is. But don't worry, we got something for you. Got Desoxyn. Oh, that sounds good. That sounds like an innocent name. I've never heard that. The kids using that on the street. That sounds about fine. And the doctor's like, well, I probably should disclose one thing. This meth. Parents, good one, doctor. No. It's meth. It's just we give it another name to make parents feel better that they're giving their kids meth. You know, that drug that every parent's scared they're going to do when they're older and ruin their life? Well, we're going to start them young. We got this training program. Yeah, we're giving them a bit of meth on the way, a bit of 5 milligrams here and there. Sorting right out. Yeah, there's Ritalin in the UK. We don't. I looked it up. I don't think we prescribe this. We're more of a Ritalin, Adderall. Adderall's massive in America. But just imagine that. You're like, this 6-year-old needs some meth. Let's go sort him out. He's not developing when he's 13, but keep him away from that weed. That will mess up his brain. He's too young for that. He's still developing. But these nice white pills in this box that you can shake that makes a right noise. It's a bit of a cock. But it came from a doctor, so it's all good. It's all good. You could make endless jokes about this. So, ecogenous obesity as a short-term adjunct in a regimen of weight reduction based on caloric restriction for patients in whom obesity is refractory to alternative therapy, repeated diets, group programs, and other drugs. The limited usefulness of Desoxyn tablets should be weighed against possible risks of inherent in the use of drug. So there was a bit before basically saying, like I said, it's hard to tell if how valid the drugs are because they do other things as well. I mean, this is insane. Well, I don't know how. Wasn't taught this at school either. Had that. Everyone remembers. Teachers, they bring in this like policeman, like in primary school, they this plastic box, all this stuff. You get to say, kids, you don't want to be doing drugs. You don't want to be doing that. And they bring in like these nonsense people doing these dances in secondary school. Isn't it worth it? America's a lot different to the UK. So this is from American perspective, but coming from me in the UK, where their prescriptions are on a different level. Like there's drugs there. Like no, who has Vicodin in the UK? Like all the US obviously has a very bad problem with overprescribing. On the one hand, they completely overprescribe, obviously, the OxyContin thing, the opioid crisis. And then on the other hand, they're like one of the harshest people for drugs. Like the DEA are just horny to arrest 16-year-olds who are buying a bag of weed. It's just insane. We're not here good with drugs either. I'm sure it's not as bad as America. I think they imprison the most people in the world in general. But we still have police always lurking, trying to get you done for drugs. But the drug dealers never seem to be arrested in my area, which is strange. But anyway, that's a tangent. So dosage and administration: Desoxyn tablets are given orally, so it's a pill. Attention, okay, ADHD for treatment of children 6 years or older with a behavioral syndrome characterized by moderate to severe distractibility, short attention span, hyperactivity, emotional liability, and impulsivity. An initial dose of 5 mg Desoxyn once or twice a day. So they're taking up to 10 milligrams a day, as recommended. Daily dosages may be raised in increments of 5 milligrams at weekly intervals until optimum clinical response is achieved. The usual effective dose is 20 to 25 milligrams daily. The total daily dose may be given in 2 divided doses. I'd love to know the average dose of meth for recreational use. I tried to look it up, and it's kind of, it doesn't really give you it properly. But like at 5 mg obviously isn't loads, but if it's a drug where you don't need much, like heroin, meth, and crack, I'm pretty sure you don't really need loads. That's not that, and they say up to twice a day. And obviously, if they're 6 years old, those pills are going to be far from them. Well, I imagine some kid comes into school in secondary school and he just starts slinging Desoxyn. He's like, "Oh, I get you really hyper," and then it's meth, but not like it's in a pill form. There's always kids who are going to bring like ADHD tablets to school, like Ritalin, which is basically like speed. But a 6-year-old on taking meth because of those, like, surely you'd be like, I'm sure not that many parents at 6 years old would do that. But the fact that a government authorizing agency has it that low is insane. Like, I don't think any normal parent would take them in at 6. Maybe some would take them in at like a bit older. I still like not really sure about giving kids drugs that young, like as in like 12, 13. It's still pretty young to be taking them every day. There's one thing, like you try weed and some other drugs when you're like 13, 14, whatever. But like if you're taking them every day, every this is drugs you take every day, it's different. And I'm all pro drugs, all for that, all for legalization. But giving kids, I'm not pro giving, a kid doing MDMA when he's like 12. Like that's just not a thing. And that's like a few one-offs, let alone taking stuff every day. Obviously it's a different drug. But I just can't get over like the DEA has this fact sheet, and it's just like a massive contradiction of everything. Like, yeah, we hate meth, and it's one of the worst drugs in the US. But yeah, it's actually prescribed by the FDA, and that means we have to put it in Schedule 2 because it has medicinal value. But what's that? What's that? Weed, cannabis, marijuana is all in Schedule 1 because marijuana is a Schedule 1 substance under the Controlled Substance Act, meaning that it has a high potential for abuse and no currently accepted medical use and treatment in the United States, and a lack of accepted safety for those under medical supervision. Imagine trying to be taken serious if the DEA and you have two fact sheets, one with meth and one with weed. And like, how is weed the highest class possible when it says has no medicinal value, which it clearly does, and there's states that have medical use, and there's no doubt that weed has at least one medicinal value, let alone all the rest. And the fact that obviously research was stifled for so long, and who knows what we're going to find out. And then be like, no, but this is class one. So I keep saying class A on the UK. Schedule 1, but meth, Schedule 2. And so I was like, what? Why is it schedule? How does that have medicinal use? Oh, it has use for 6-year-olds and above for ADHD. Those kids that are just distracted and energetic. Yeah, well, that's fine. For those people in the street, you can't take it for fun. This is for hardcore mentally ill people who are 6 years old and distracted. Hmm. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some people like, oh, ADHD is obviously real. And I'm like, okay, would you give your kid at 6 years old meth? Put your money where your mouth is, son. I don't think you would. And anyone who does is as irresponsible as parents who give their kids hormone pills because they want to be another gender, even though they're not old enough to be making that decision. If you're not old enough to have sex, you're definitely not old enough to change your sex. All right. No, I find it hard to believe a kid would. I'm sure many parents in America do, and the UK give their kids a prescription because there's a doctor saying it, and why would you not listen to a doctor? They're not here to hurt you. They want to help your kid. Maybe you're lazy. Maybe that's just their personality. Family Guy had a great episode where Stewie takes ADHD pills because he is too energetic, and Brian takes ADHD pills because he's too lazy. And it gives the extreme of both ones, and then they're like at the end, well, maybe I'm just an energetic person and you're just lazy, and that's fine because that's just the way our personality is. We don't need drugs to change that. It's just, and what if you're wrong? What if they're 6 and they're just displaying these characteristics, and it's a phase? And well, not 6. Let's say 10. I don't think many people are saying 6. I'm harping on that. I'm gonna blame the FDA, not the parents, on that because I don't think many would. But I just love this FDA document. It's from 2020. Maybe the schedules have changed, but that just sums up America. Their agencies are just lost. They are hardest on the war on drugs, and they have stuff like this, and it's so retarded. Like there's no other perfect word to say than retarded. It's just insane. And then there's the big massive alcohol culture. Yeah, it's all good, but I think I'll leave it there. Everything's going to go in the show notes. If anyone else has any information on it, that will be great. But my mind's still blown. I mean, when I found it out, I just wanted to tell everyone. And I think it goes over people's head when you say it because it just sounds so insane. But I'm going to leave it there. And actually, let's quickly check heroin because I'm sure that's Schedule 2 as well. Because it is used in opioids, isn't it? Everywhere. I'm sure it's going to be Schedule 2, isn't it? I can't. I'll put it in the show notes. But thanks for listening to the Truth Over Comfort show. I hope you found that as insane as I do. I enjoyed a little bit of a rant there, but if you don't rant about that to someone, you have failed humanity, to be honest. But yeah, thanks for listening to the Truth Over Comfort show, and we will see you soon.